This weight loss phenomenon will piss you off more than anything else on your fat loss journey. And I get this question all the time. Doing everything right, but for some reason, my body weight just isn't dropping. And the reality is the weight is changing, just not at the pace as you'd expect. The scale weight is always going to fluctuate, no matter how good your week is going. And part of this is because all scale weight is just your relationship to gravity. You stand on the plate, the springs get compressed, and then a small calculation inside the machine tells you exactly how much you weigh, but too many people will add too much value to that number, and that adds way more weight to everything that's going on in your life. This adds more emotion and more story to the actual truth of whatever is going on. And then a lot of guys step on that scale, and if it feels like it's not got down the way they want, they then start to say that they are a failure, rather than just accepting the reality of the situation is that the number has just not changed. But if we can change your perception and get you understanding what those values are really showing and why it's not changing the way that you want, you'll be able to remove all the guilt and shame when you don't get those weeks that you'd like. This then allows you to have way more patience and then have those drops happen 2, 3, 4 weeks down the line, and where you can really start to see all the progress that you want. And it's important to understand that no matter how perfect your week is going, it's still going to fluctuate. And so here are the reasons why it does. But before we get into that, if you don't know who I am, I'm Jack. I'm an online coach. I help men get in shape, help them drop 10 to 15 kilos so they look incredible, feel lean, confident, and jacked. If you want to know more, there is a link below this video where you can apply for a consultation and we can have a conversation about where you are right now, what you're struggling with, how I can help you achieve the goals that you have, and what we can do about it. It's completely free, and if you're interested, just hit that link below. So it's important to understand that there are a number of factors that impact your scale weight. This video is going to be no more than 8 minutes, but it's going to completely change everything you think about when it comes to your scale weight. So sleep impacts scale weight because of a few factors. When you get poor quality sleep, this impacts water retention. So you actually store more water because you've not slept as well, and this forces a bit more inflammation into the body. It alters things like digestion, hormones, your hunger levels, and when you do sleep like crap, your cortisol levels spike. And this is pretty similar to aldosterone, which is a hormone which triggers more water retention and sodium in the liver. And it brings us into inflammation, which is the second point. Now, when we're inflamed, it's actually a positive thing. It's our body trying to recover off the back of something that's strenuous, something that's stressful, and that water retention pushes fluids, carbohydrates, and other essential nutrients to help us repair that damaged area. Let's say you do a really intense gym session, we've got the DOMs that are happening, you've gone for a long hike over the weekend, and the body is not used to that amount of volume. And so we have that inflammation, we have that water retention, which is going to make that scale weight jump up as well. If you've got a carb target that you're aiming for whilst you're in the starting phase and you overshoot it by, let's say, 100 grams, there is a chance that you will also retain an extra 400 grams of water. For every 1 gram of carbohydrate you ingest, you retain 3 to 4 grams of water to help transport that carbohydrate around the body. So this is where after a big night out of food or just a lot more carbs than you usually had to, where the body weight will then jump up off the back of it. We've also then got internal food storage as a higher amount because of those carbohydrates. Sodium intake. If we've had really salty foods, we've added more salt to our foods that we're eating or taking electrolytes, this is going to push that water retention up as well, because again, the kidneys and liver are having to cope with that sodium to then be balanced using that water that you've consumed, and that's where we get that high number come from. We've already briefly touched on it, but food volume and meal timings will also play a role. If you are typically eating around 6 p.m. and then you eat somewhere between 9 p.m. and 9:30, that food is still going to take a longer period of time to digest. Typically, food takes about 24 hours to 72 hours to fully digest and pass through your system. And so if you're having meals later into the evening, that's then going to be impacting what that scale weight is going to be showing first thing in the morning. And the size of the food can also change. If you're going from low voluminous foods like rice, honey, and chips to then potatoes, starchy vegetables, more leafy greens, peppers, onions, more fruit, that's going to contain a higher amount of volume versus the amount of calories you're eating. And that's going to mean there's more food in your system compared to a small, low volume meal. That means it's going to take longer to digest, it's going to stay in your system more often, and you're going to feel fuller because there's just a higher rate of volume. And then fiber. So we want to be typically looking to get about 10 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. There's two types. You've got soluble and insoluble. And soluble fiber is digested in water. And so it kind of turns it into a bit of a gel-like substance within the gut. And we think of these as things like oats, beans, apples, berries, chia seeds, and psyllium husk. And they help to try and just stodge out the food we're already eating. Insoluble fiber is things that adds bulk to your stool and to your poo and helps move things through your digestive tract. And this is stuff like whole grains, nuts, leafy greens, fruit skins, potato with skins on, cauliflower and green beans. So all essential food items. And this just helps to improve our digestive health. If we're not getting much fiber in, the food will just flow straight through you quite quickly. But if we're getting crazy high amounts of fiber, plus 50 grams, we're gonna have a slowing down of that gastric emptying. So we wanna roughly aim for about 30 grams of fiber per day. That's a nice rough balance for us to keep and maintain a good level of digestion. Now, alcohol is gonna play a role as well. Alcohol is a poison, and when we start to ingest it, our body has to metabolize that first before any fats or carbohydrates that we have. It's gonna have a massive impact on our digestive health. So it's gonna kill off a lot of the microbiome that we have, and therefore it's gonna create a lot of inflammation in the gut too. Typically, most people see a massive drop off the back of consuming alcohol into the evening, and then it's gonna spike back up again because your body is dealing with that toxin. And then of course, if you've gone absolutely mad and you've drunk a lot of alcohol, there's a higher chance that you're gonna move less the next day, you're gonna eat poorer quality food, you're gonna crave carbohydrate and sugary foods, and ultimately, it's the decisions after drinking which probably play a higher role in your body weight changing in a way that you don't want it to, more than anything else. Next, we've got stress and illness. Now, ultimately, we already talked about inflammation and how that rolls with stress, but when we're ill as well, we'll often see those two things happening again. The body's gonna hold more water because of inflammation and improve that immune system. Sometimes it can drop because of low hydration status or just not feeling like you wanna eat anything because either your anxiety is crazy high or you've just got a stomach bug and you don't wanna eat any food. Again, everyone's different, and with cortisol being one of the main drivers of the decision making in those moments, again, it comes back down to that gut to brain axis where if we're stressed, our gut's not gonna be great. If our gut's not great, we're gonna be even more stressed. And it's about balancing that as much as we can. Sometimes we can't do much when we get ill, but it's just one of these things that we have to also think about. There's a few little details, like some medications gonna impact your scale weight changing. Then we've got things like flying and inconsistent times that we've taken your body weight at. Those little details and discrepancies will slow down gastric emptying from the flying, but also you may not have gone to the loo when you then stepped on the scales. And this just shows the importance of keeping a consistent place and time when you're weighing yourself daily. Now, I can't stress how important it is that you do weigh yourself daily, because if you're only taking a weekly measurement and comparing week 1 to week 2, you might be comparing yourself to a low within week 1 and a high within week 2, which means that it could be exactly the same level, but for the average weight loss of each week, you'll still have that trend where you're heading in the right direction. And this is why it's so important to be doing it daily. You should be aiming to try and get at least 6 out of 7 days tracked, because that's going to give you the overall trend to see that line going down as you're going on your journey. Now, this is why you also should be taking some sort of body tape measurements and progress photos as well, either every week or every month, so that you've got a real clear picture of what's happening outside of scale weight. Scale weight is the biggest indicator for progress, but sometimes it doesn't want to play ball. Look, the most important thing here is don't get caught up in the minutia of the day-to-day trend. You want to be looking at a month-long distance in terms of how much progress you're making. If it's not changed in 2 weeks, you probably want to change something up. And so I've made this other video that you can go watch above me somewhere, which will run you through exactly what happens when you hit a plateau and what you need to do about it to see all the progress you want to continue to get lean, get confident, feel awesome in and out of clothes, get respected by the people around you, feel like you're a bit of a leader for the friends and family that you have. And I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I look forward to catching you in the next one.